again. They've got 2 or 3 other classes. They've got other instructors competing for their time. So to me, conciseness has value. Okay? I was a student of a well-known American philosopher named Elton Trueblood when I was at Earl College. And 30 years later, my daughter teaches theater at Earl College. But he always said, if you have an idea, the fewer words it takes to communicate that idea, the better job you're doing communicating. So I'm very much a Socrates is a male. All males are mortals, therefore Socrates is a mortal guy. I'm not an adjective verb guy. Okay? And I'm trying to create my module on those direct, concise lines. I also think that it's not a bad idea over here on the left. See all the things that are not real dark here, like discussions and files and all that. I'm also of the opinion that the students will understand how things piece together better if you put everything they need for that module in the module, so they don't have to click here to take the quiz and click there to do the homework. They can just keep hitting next. Okay? So I want you to think about how you can streamline your modules. And you streamline your modules, that is step 1 to getting a course into 8 modules. Okay, now I have included, but no one has used, some discussion board forums here, just in case you have a question on course modules. You can go in there and put your question, and I'll try to get back to you. Okay, the next module is on the syllabus. Julia covered a lot of this. There's one thing here, and it's in red, that I want to emphasize. According to the records office, the drop date for no-shows is now going to be the 4th school day after the class starts. For 8 week classes. The rationale being, let's say it's a Monday, Wednesday class. You got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The class will have met 2 times.
Which is the same then as 2 weeks.
Yeah, basically, yeah. In other words, a lot of that is federal guidelines, but because the course is condensed, that calendar gets condensed too. So you're going to have to be very attentive to getting those dates in front of the students in your syllabus. Okay, that's about all I need to say about the syllabus, because Julia covered all of that very well. But again, we have a place for questions about the syllabus. Nobody's used any of these. I don't want to go through all that. So let's go back here. And talk about assessments. This might be the single most important thing for me to mention to you today. If we are going to have 8 weeks instead of 16 to cover the same amount of content, it's going to require some creative thinking. For example, Julia had that you may need to have discussion module 058 and 05B. You may need to do that. But what if, instead of having two discussion boards, you have one discussion board where you ask them to compare and contrast whatever A and B would have otherwise been? In other words, instead of creating assessments and assignments that only check all of the student on one course objective, you may have to create assessments and assignments that allow you to assess them on two or more objectives at the same time. Now, pedagogically, I believe there's an advantage here. And that is, and maybe it's because I'm a philosopher that I think this way, but for me, comprehension is more important than recall. I think that's true in things like accounting too. Okay? So, there is some evidence, and it's still not settled. You know, people may argue both ways, but there's some evidence that indicates that comprehension improves if we do fewer assignments and have the student have to dig a little deeper and drop out on the topic. Okay? Our statewide classes annoy me very much. I was going to say drive me nuts.
I'm with you, brother.
Because of all the petty 5 and 10 point assignments that are in
It's like
the students.
a practice quiz, and not just give them a quiz that counts.
Exactly. Why do I want to write a discussion board that's worth 10 points? I think I worth 20 or 25. I also require 2 replies instead of just 1. Okay? And I also put some word count limits. I have a lower limit, upper limit, because I don't want to write a research paper for a discussion board. I want to get the point, but I don't want him to just say, I agree with Dylan. Okay?
No one should ever agree with Dylan.
Oh, I don't know. Sometimes I agree with you a lot. What we want to do is have the student be able to synthesize and use the material. But before they can do that, we have to synthesize the material and how we structure our assignments. Okay? One of the best, oh, that moved. I'm terrible about leaning on the desk when I teach. One of the best instructors probably in the history of this campus, you know who I'm talking about, sat right over here and said in the same session, okay, so what if you're trying to make 2 modules out of one, that you got 2 topics and they don't have anything to do with each other, but you've got an outline for each of them. I said there are 2 ways you can do that. I said you can still have 2 outlines and put them in one document and say, here is the outline for Module 4, covering epistemology and ethics or whatever. Or you could actually put 2 documents in that one module. And the light bulb went on. And he said, oh, I can do that. That'd be easy. We had a program chair for our culinary program here, Chef Joe. And Chef Joe's retired now, but Chef Joe's office is next to mine, and Chef Joe is a barrel of fun. And he used to talk about 2 things. He said that good culinary arts are thinking about nutrition and about presentation. We all know what it's like to go into a nice restaurant and have a real attractive plate. My son just graduated from Mystical Residency Friday evening, and they had this fancy dinner, and everything was beautiful at the table. Okay. let me use that as an analogy. My wife says I use too many analogies. If what we're doing in converting from 16 weeks to 8, the objectives, the content of the course is the same, the nutrition is the same, this is all presentation. Does that make some sense? What I want to ask you to do, and you can reach out to me if I may want to help you if I can, think about different ways of doing presentation so that even though the content is all there, maybe the presentation is more streamlined. I think that we're going to have to be creative with this in order for it to work. I also think, having done this for 10 years at 8-week classes, I've taught an 8-week class every semester since 2008 or 2009. Okay, that's why I got asked to do this, I think. My experience is that I get much better learning results. I think what's going to happen is 2 or 3 years down the road, 2 things are going to be true, and I'll leave you with this. One, we're going to have a new group of students coming in who are never going to know the difference, or we're not going to have complaints anymore because they don't know what they were missing.
They're all expected to do 2 chapters in a week instead of 1.
Yeah, they don't know. And number 2 is, I think we're going to get better comprehension if we do this right. I'm sold on it. So please reach out to me if I can do anything to help. I'm sure Julia and Dylan would say the same. And unless you have questions for me, I think that's all I need to cover.
All right. And there's just a few more things to show you. You may have questions about this process. A lot of people have had questions. We took questions in the spring from people and created frequently asked questions about 8-week courses. So these were answered pretty much by the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs and by Clarence, how this is going to work. So if you want to just look through this, that is also in the shell. If you still have a question, let us know and we can add to it. Also, people have had questions about financial aid. You may or may not have those questions. But financial aid and veterans benefits questions related to 8-week courses are here, and this is something that came from the systems office. So please feel free to refer to those documents. I was also asked to put some Ivy Tech specific articles in here. So there's a link to the Republic article, which is the Columbus paper on this, what we're doing at Columbus Ivy Tech from March. And then there's this document that was written and submitted to Ivy Tech November of 2017. And this was the study of a former Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs. He's now retired, but he did this study on 8-week courses. He looked at studies that had been done and around other institutions that had 8-week courses and tried to decide what would be helpful. I think they did a pilot on his campus when he was there. So that's more rationale behind the change to 8-week courses. And then, because I'm also a librarian, I created an accelerated learning bibliography. So all these links are links to resources. The first links are actually links to the Rochester Institute of Technology, which was accelerating courses, and so they created this whole website of helpful things for faculty. There's a video on a faculty member from a Colorado college that does things. I think they teach in 3 weeks, courses in 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. But it's extremely condensed, and their whole thing here, it's fascinating. I mean, these are 2 different institutions in that they are well-funded and they have, you know, it's hard to get into them, and they're 4 years, so but you can't relate to everything they're saying, but there's some issues about the deep learning that relate to us. And they say the deeper and the more specific it can be, the better. So I found that really interesting. But then there's also sort of some best practices and just other articles you can get to straight from this document. So feel free to browse through that. I think that's all. Oh, and lastly, we'd love your feedback on this training. Some of our questions in the frequently asked questions came from the survey, and also it's helped us decide how we're approaching round 2. So you'll see the last module in this course shell you're in is to help improve. Please complete this short evaluation after attending the session. So if you could click on that, and it's a short survey. And I'll also open it up to any questions anyone has.
I'm trying to reconcile the idea of, it's the same pizza, just cut it into 8 pieces instead of 16 pieces, with the don't be scrunching all your material from 16 weeks into 8 weeks. Because to me, I'm thinking, okay, if I'm taking the content that I've been using, which is a textbook